Welcome to another edition of Cattle Chatter. I'm Susan Littlefield, the American Ag Network. We are on the road, by the way, the National Association of Farm Broadcasting annual convention taking place in Kansas City, Missouri. Well, has the leverage been lost? And more importantly, is there greed? Greed, of course, as we know, is human emotion, according to Brad Kooima. As Brad joins us, he is with Kooima Kooima Varilek out of Sioux Center, Iowa. So let's start there. The leverage that we've had. We know that we had early cash this week, cash that took a big price drop. Is that leverage gone right now?
In a word, yes. And thanks for having me on, of course, Susan. um, yeah, and you talk about this, and there's such a fine line between too many and not enough, and I'm not gonna project that we've got too many cattle either. We may have for a brief amount of time here too many of one kind of cattle, and all kind of piled up in one spot. But the leverage piece is real. And I think, we had it all year this year. And we had it, partly because there's less cattle, right? I mean, and partly because of that less cattle, it's not just the domestic herd, but, without the influx of the Mexican cattle, that changed the dynamics especially for those in the South. But the other thing, that was we were, delighted with the prices. We had a tendency to pull cattle forward. We started doing that already, I thought, when we were doing the yearlings last winter. And that continued right along into spring and summer and even into the early fall, where we were selling these cattle very, very timely. And then we started to hear, well, these feeder cattle are awful high. I think I'm going to feed what I have. I'm going to make them a little bigger. We were incentivized to by the packer. The packer wanted them bigger too. He's trying to get more pounds, right? Less numbers. And now, suddenly you wake up one day and go like, oh, shucks, we've got a few big cattle. And I don't think it's Mount Everest. I don't think it's an overwhelming deal. But again, the tilting the scale a little bit, especially here in the North where we do, the lion's share of negotiating. I mean, this is where the negotiation gets done. It feels like we got a few cattle backed up. And so all of a sudden we're a little more panicky with the selling, and instead of being able to hold out till a Friday and making the packers come to us, we're selling cattle yesterday at $5 less than a week ago, Susan, and kind of like, how many will you take until they went out of the market? Not today. You can't even get yesterday's prices, which yesterday was 218, and I'm not sure if you can get much better than 215 right now. So yeah, it's I made this comment before. Sometimes the market feels like a murmuration is the fancy word for a flock of starlings, where it's like, it's now hopefully we'll right the ship and maybe we can talk to some signals that we can be watching for something like that. But yes, in the here and now, we have definitely lost our leverage.
Well, you talk about these cattle being big. This has been tremendous growing weather for them. We have not seen, I mean, not that November 20th, when we're recording this, we should have snow, but we haven't had really the big cold snaps factoring in yet either.
Great point. 100% correct. A lot of cattle have not had a bad day, and the performance would show that too. I think most people that are feeding cattle, if they looked at their closeouts lately, the performance has been very, very good. So yeah, new corn that always gives you a little boost in the intakes and stuff like that too. So no, there's no question that a little bit of a double whammy there, where people are fighting the market a little bit and the cattle are growing really, really good. But again, I don't. If this was August, Susan, I'd really be clanging get the bell here. If you were going into a big supply of these long fed calves, I would be I'm worried anyway. On every day I worry about the market, but I'd be much more concerned. Now it's November. We should be about to the end of that deal. Now it always takes longer than you think. So whatever you think it is, double it. If you think it's 2 weeks, it's 4. If you think it's a month, it's 2 months. I don't think it's 2 months. So we just got to get busy. And if you would happen to, get the, fear and greed used to work pretty good with the marketplace. And I still think there's some of that elements that we're dealing with. Even though we got computer trade, I think fear and greed is still a human element that becomes part of our marketplace.
Well, and talk about dates that are on the calendar. I mean, Thanksgiving is next week, so we have a shortened slaughter week next week. But also, normally we start to see a bottom put in place. So, is there the potential that bottom is put in place as we ramp up to that, December 15th type of date with some new highs coming back in?
You've got an old timer, I guess that's me, would say you've got a long for a short this week. This is a week where often the cash market is lower because you've got 5 days to buy them, and next week 4. I hope 4 days. I hope they don't take Friday off to kill them, so they don't need as many cattle, right? Now that also has a tendency to tighten up the whole channel of beef production. That also signals a time where you switch away from some of these other turkey ham type features to a more of a rib meat, a middle meat, a steak, a tenderloin, what you might make for Christmas, like what you and I are both going to make. I'm going to make a whole ribeye loin myself. That shift usually helps support that seasonal that you were talking about, which is the first full week of December or somewhere in that slot. Now it's not perfect. Seasonals are only a small part of the market, but if we would see some good cleanup, if we'd see some increased kill, I could almost see that this could fall together like that the week after Thanksgiving, maybe, that we'd feel a little bit better about it. So I wish we could get the girl in the room, the Mexican border. Tell us what's going to happen so that we can get that assimilated into the marketplace. It's a little bit like soybeans. We were talking about, well, what if Brazil starts to buy it? Yeah, what if Brazil starts to buy it? So we rally $1.10 or 20, and now they are starting to buy it, and we've sold off 30 cents. So I do think I think the market's ready to handle that news. Let's just get it over with and get it in there.
Well, we've had a few packers that have had some shortened trade weeks, like not having kills on a Saturday, for example. Is that something we might see continuing into the end of the year?
It's one of the cues I'm going to watch for. One of the clues. I'm hoping that the greed factor, the fact that the Packers are now making lots of money now that beef is too high. Sorry, I wasn't going to bring it up this week.
No.
So they've flipped that now, and I got to think that maybe the timing here, going into the holidays and stuff, that they may go like, hey, we're making quite a bit of money on these cattle that we're killing, so let's kill a few extras. That would get me more excited probably than a lot of things if we'd see that. I'd love to see them add a Saturday. I mean, there was 2 Packers last week that didn't kill on Friday again, and so that'll be something that you and I will be watching very carefully the next 2, 3, 4 weeks for sure.
Well, that means, though, get past that turkey days. You and I are going to be talking beef on our plates on Thursday, but consumers, we're going to start ramping up. Are they going to think holidays? We're going to get some good deals coming at the grocery store. Let's get some more beef pushed across the meat counter.
Well, I think so. I worry a little bit that, if you give someone the perception that something is too high, they may believe that without really doing their own research. Okay. I mean, last week at the local grocery store here in the small town that I live in, you could buy a whole New York strips for $9.99. I mean, that is not high priced at all. Looking at the whole ribeye loin that I'm going to cook here coming up, I mean, I just bought that for $14.99. Yeah, it's a little bit more, but that's a heck of a cut of meat. We need to get the hamburger down a little bit. I think for that low middle, that budget conscious shopper that is maybe having some issues too with the way the economy might be for him or her. I think our domestic demand is fine, and I think if we figure out that we can consume it and produce it at that, and that indeed it really isn't high, not relative to so many other things that they're spending their money on.
All right. Great conversation heading into Thanksgiving. Hopefully we'll get a chance to catch up with you next week. But in the meantime, what's the best way for folks to pick up the phone?
kkvtrading.com is our website, which is pretty average. Call us instead. 712-722-0023 will work.
All right. Thanks so much. Brad Kooima joining us once again for this week's edition of Cattle Chatter.
The views and opinions of this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers. There is substantial risk of loss in trading futures and options, which you should carefully consider prior to trading.